Good morning, everybody, and we're just getting ready to get started here. We'll give everybody a few more seconds to begin, and welcome to our first Service Asset and Configuration Management Virtual User Group. We'll probably give everyone just one more minute to join, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right, again, good morning. I think we're ready to get started. Just by way of introduction, my name is Sean Behrens. I'm the Managing Director for Fruition Partners South and Government Regions. To get the program moving this morning, I just wanted to do a brief introduction about Fruition Partners, who we are. That'll be just a few seconds. Talk a little bit about the goal and purpose of the virtual user group, which is really for ServiceNow customers who want to interact with other customers, and we'll get into the two presentations for today. So, Fruition Partners, we are an IT service management consulting and professional services company. Our focus is helping customers with their IT service management maturity, be it program management, strategy, moving to the ServiceNow platform. And you can see here on the slide, we have 110 folks working for Fruition. We've done just a little bit over 300 ServiceNow implementations. And we haven't just been focused on ServiceNow over the past 5 years. We've been working with many customers for the past decade on their ITIL processes, rolling out service management offices and ServiceNow. Next slide. This shows all the services that we provide here at Fruition. Starting from the left, obviously I've already mentioned that we do process consulting. We do implementations of ServiceNow specifically.
Hey, Sean.
In the ITSM space. In terms of platform development, we help customers to move business processes and IT processes from Lotus Notes or other legacy systems over to ServiceNow. Coca-Cola is one of our customers that have done that, and Harvey will be showing that here in a second.
Hey,
our managed services group helps. Yep.
Hey, everybody. This is Mike Henderson, by the way, the Fruition. We're actually getting a couple questions and chats coming in from folks. It looks like the show my screen feature isn't really working as it should on your end.
Okay.
We're kind of stuck on that first slide. And it's kind of off-centered, too, from the screen. So if we could clean that up. I'm not sure what's going on your end, but just take a quick look at that.
How does that look?
The same, actually. Actually, it's, okay. Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
And thanks, everybody, for your feedback. Glad to know everybody's paying attention, so we'll get this fixed as quick as we can.
Yeah, how does it? Has it gotten any better?
It's not. It's kind of stuck on this fixed kind of image. So maybe what we can do is I can maybe pull up my my version of the deck. Yeah, let's try this. This looks different. Keep doing what you're doing. There we go. Perfect, Sean. Thank you, sir. And thanks, everybody, for your patience.
Sorry, everybody. Nothing like a little technical difficulties in the presentation. We all know what that feels like. Okay, so again, just quickly going through our offerings. For managed services, we help customers that once they're done with their phase 1 implementation of ServiceNow, we can either help their existing ServiceNow team with enhancements, defects, upgrades, and that sort of thing. And for some organizations, we've actually become their ServiceNow team. Our training group is focused very much on the ITIL process. and ITIL certification courses. We provide those publicly and privately. We also provide all of the ServiceNow admin courses that ServiceNow provides. And then last but not least, on the technology front, we help customers to integrate ServiceNow with many other technologies and platforms that you may have in your organization, like SAP, SolarWinds, different discovery tools, telephony, CTI type technologies to enhance your ITSM and business processes. So that's Fruition. Kind of moving into today's agenda, we have two great speakers lined up to really focus on service asset and configuration management. Again, the goal is really to help customers, all of you on the phone, to see what other customers are doing in the asset management space. You may be doing some of these processes today and managing your assets in various tools, ServiceNow being one of them. And we thought to kind of kick off this SACM virtual user group, and we hope to have more of these in the future, really just to get some ideas out there, get people thinking about what the CMDB is, what other companies are doing. And kind of with that theme, I've asked Harvey Giddens, who is the lead CMDB analyst at Coca-Cola, to really focus on high-level CMDB. What's in the CMDB? You know, what does an enterprise organization like Coca-Cola focus on, and what's important for them in terms of tracking assets? And he has a great presentation lined up for that. And then Judy Benda, who's a vice president at Northern Trust. She's responsible for the software asset management process, and she's going to talk about you know, where Northern Trust started in terms of managing software titles, some of the complication around that, and using various tools to do that, and then how she has streamlined that process and automated various tasks within the ServiceNow platform. Again, it's a virtual user group, so please raise your hand if you have any questions, and we'll be happy to answer those. We also have some poll questions that we're going to share and to poll the group to get you thinking about some of these ideas as we move along. Mike, do you want to cover this slide and just mention anything I may have missed so far?
No, I think we're good. You know, thanks again, Sean, for the introduction. I think everything was pretty much covered. You know, like Sean said, just to emphasize, this is a user group. It's meant to be, you know, active, and we encourage participation. So, as Sean said, any questions, you can either raise your hand. We encourage folks to use that chat box. And I think a lot of you have already figured that out by letting us know about the presentation issues earlier on. But so yeah, questions, use the chat box. We actually, like Sean said, we have a couple polls lined up, and so you'll notice too on the slides there's a little poll icon, so that'll help prepare you. I'll let you know when a poll is about to be opened. So we'll open that up. We'll give everybody about 20-30 seconds to answer the question, the poll, and then we'll share the results and give you an idea of where you stack up against your peers. So that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Mike. And again, just a quick slide here. So this is who we are. Harvey's going to start off, again, talking about the CMDB, and then Judy's going to talk about software asset management, and then I'm going to be supporting both Harvey and Judy as I have experience working with Coca-Cola, and I had a previous 12-year career at Northern Trust, so I'll be helping Judy work through that presentation as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Give me 1 second to open Harvey's presentation. And Harvey, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, all right. Let's go ahead and start. I'm going to talk about pretty much establishing a CMDB from ground zero. Okay, so, and again, that's my title. Again, I'm Harvey Giddens, lead business analyst for the Coca-Cola Company. And I work exclusively in the CMDB space in ServiceNow at Coca-Cola for the last 3 years. I've been in the industry over 30 years, but the last 3 years primarily in the ServiceNow space at Coca-Cola. And I'm going to talk about how to establish this successful CMDB from a very high-level point of view, just like Sean stated, on how to get started, how to use it, primarily the CMDB in ServiceNow. Okay, again, this is my objective here. I know I have a lot of time, slated for me, but I probably use less time. So I want to present a practical, informed overview to you on how we develop our CMDB at the Coca-Cola Company. Okay, so it's going to be very practical on how we did it. So I pretty much extrapolated the key nuggets, key information on what we did in order to deploy our success in our CMDB. Okay, these are my topics, pretty much very simple. Give you some background. Talk about the major components of the CMDB, which is very important because, again, in our environment, we came from ground zero. And conclusion, and share with you the lessons that we learned, looking in hindsight and retrospect. A little background. Well, who are we, the Coca-Cola Company? Just a little simple profile. Have to do this. Here, we're the world's largest beverage company. We have over 500 brands, and we have the world's largest beverage distribution system. We distribute Coca-Cola throughout the world. Okay, 200 countries enjoy our beverage at a rate of 1.8 billion servings a day. And on this slide here, you can see some of our products. And believe it or not, our CMDB is instrumental in maintaining all the component infrastructure that supports these brands throughout the world, throughout the Coca-Cola enterprise. Let's talk about some of these ITM processes here. What you see are the different processes and services that we have collaborating with Fruition that we have developed and deployed into production in the Coca-Cola environment. Okay, you can see on top there our core system where you got notification and reporting capabilities in ServiceNow throughout all the different modules in the ServiceNow arena. Here we have went live with our request system, and then we got another deployment on March 31st for total to complete the worldwide release of request. And we have a 3PA, our third-party access system. We have external vendors and clients to come in to register to get access to different software and services within the company for their particular needs and usage. The 3PA system helps us out with that. We have a fully funded change management system. I will talk about this during my presentation. In our change system, we have one change system for the Coca-Cola Company globally. We sunset and retire a lot of those systems, and we went live with this back in February 6, 2012. And also the CMDB, our CMDB and change, they both were deployed into live production at the same time. And our CMDB is the core of all these services, what you see on your screen here. Okay, for us at the company. Here we got release management, okay, which we are starting commencing on that this year in the release management space. And we have Synergy, it's a marketing app that use like requests for internal and external vendors can come in to get access to our marketing systems. Incident, yeah, which is a big one. We went live with Incident back in November. With Incident went live with that. And again, the CMDB is the core of that one. This is worldwide. We sunset about 10, 12 systems all globally. Now we have only one incident system, which is ServiceNow. We went live with Knowledge. We sunset many knowledge systems. We only have one. And also our service level metrics. We have all types of metrics through all these different systems here on this screen, what you see here. We have went live with Problem back in November as well. And then also we're going to be, you see release, it's a white background. We're going to be coming up with our release strategy in 2013. That's on the radar for 2013. And because we have a large SAP environment. And SAP, some of you people may have an SAP environment. SAP is a little different. They have their own change management process. So we're going to try to sunset that and bring that all over into ServiceNow. And Discovery, we are using Discovery. And we're very pleased with that because now we use Discovery in a limited capacity just to get our learning and experiences up. And now it's popular in our server class and our network gear class. So we are using that Discovery, and we're definitely going to utilize full capabilities with Discovery. And again, Fruition definitely helped us out through everything on this slide here. More of the background here about the CMDB primarily. In 2006, we started CMDB implementation, and that did not meet our results, did not meet the expectation. So pretty much that effort was canned. And then we were afraid to do it again because about 10 people were reallocated. Then in September 2010, we deployed our first ServiceNow modular. We just did a lift and shift approach of a request system. We only did it for North America. And we were very successful with it. We were very excited about that. See how easy to do with ServiceNow. We just did it ourselves. When some administrative training, we did it ourselves with a little help from ServiceNow. Then we were so excited in May 2011, we attended Knowledge 11 in San Diego. That's where I met a lot of people from Fruition there at that conference. And then I heard a lot of sidebar stories about the CMDB. I must admit, I was very afraid to implement the CMDB because I heard so many sidebar nightmare stories implementing the CMDB. They said, you guys are crazy. Then I said, by the way, I have like 6 months to do it. People say, you really, really are crazy over there at your company. I won't want your job. So anyway, on June 2011, we started that global CMDB implementation from ground zero. And then when our upper-level management, Jim Schofield at the time, he's the technology director, he said, by the way, I want to do change because there were issues with change at the time. We want to do CMDB first, then change. And then they said, well, we want to do change. Well, as you know, you can't do change without a CMDB, okay? So therefore, we had to do it concurrently. So that was very challenging. Now, in our CMDB, as you can see here, our maintain, we have a separate repository globally. Each region around the world have their own way of keeping track of all of their infrastructure applications in their particular environment. So we didn't have no concurrent, no good consistent processes. Everything was inconsistent and inefficient processes globally. We couldn't leverage nothing but idle. Idle-based processes was non-existent, and everybody had their own silo. Okay. Now, here, bring it up to date. On February 6, 2012, from all of that on the previous slide, we successfully deployed our CMDB into live production. Okay, we went live with 10 CMDB CI classes. I will talk about the definition of classes, which is a very important component on learning and deploying a successful CMDB. We deployed 10 classes today. I think we're using about 17 classes today. We started with 10,000 CIs. Today we have over 120,000 CIs. And the core of all our, and this CMDB is the core of our idle processes, like our CIs and what have you, from incident, change, problem, and knowledge, request system. The CMDB is at the core of that, okay? And then we are very successful because we had our management support team and we had great SME partners at ServiceNow as well as Fruition to help us out, subject matter experts. And then now also, that's the poll here. Got a polling question. I'll let Mike handle that polling question. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Harvey. Yeah, so it looks like we're going to kick off with just a pretty basic poll question asking everybody, does your organization use a CMDB? So we're going to go ahead and launch that poll right now. Hopefully everybody can see it. We'll give everybody about, and it looks like votes are coming in. So again, for those who can't see the pop-up poll, the question is, does your organization use a CMDB? The following available answers are yes for all ITIL processes, no for only select ITIL processes, no, and then don't know. So we'll give it about 5 more seconds, and we'll close it up and share the results and let you guys have a look at how others voted as well. And we're going to go ahead and still coming in. Votes are still coming in. So, and it looks like actually 80%, more than 80% of you voted. So that's awesome. So thanks for participating. So we're going to close it and share the results. So here's the results. And again, I'll read out loud for folks who can't see this. So does your organization use a CMDB? 47% said yes for all ITIL processes. 19% said no for only select ITIL processes. 33% said no, and then 2% said don't know. So I'll go ahead and hide those results, and then Harvey, before you kick things back off again, actually, we have a question from the audience, and Sean, you might be able to help out with this too. This question's from Kerry Johnson, and the question is, my understanding is that you do not actually have serialized asset level information in your CMDB. Is that correct?
Serialized.
So if I understand the the question correctly, and hi, Carrie. You know, are you really using the CMDB for asset management, and would you have, you know, desktop assets with serial numbers and other sort of components in the CMDB?
Okay.
If I'm understanding the question correctly, I think it's to what level and to what depth do you maintain assets in the CMDB?
Yeah. From the Coca-Cola point of view, the answer is no. We have one general CI. Okay? For example, let's talk about laptops. We made a decision, we built our CMDB, we would have the CI there. In that serialization, the serializing all the details of the access of those laptops, we are delegating that over to the asset module. Okay? We have an asset system that we are not currently using that, let's say for right now, we have 120,000 employees. Okay? And each one, we have 120,000 laptops, different laptops throughout the system. In the CMDB, we have one general CI, okay, that we track. Now, for all the details, for like John Doe owns this one, this is his tag number or asset tag number, this right here, that is in the asset module, okay? And so therefore, this year, we are planning to go forward with asset management and ServiceNow to sunset all those. So therefore, we're going to take advantage of that in the CMDB. So just giving you a little background and where we're going currently. So in the future, we're definitely going to take advantage of the asset management in ServiceNow, utilizing that CI in the CMDB. So the track of all metrics for incident, changes, problem, and all that coincide on that same platform in ServiceNow.
And the only other thing I'd add on to that is, you know, working with a lot of customers over the past several years and being a customer myself and a process owner, I can say the CMDB, it seems very complicated and complex for most organizations, and there's a lot of reasons why. But the CMDB really is like a layered cake. You know, at the base level of the CMDB, a lot of organizations use the CMDB to store asset level CIs, which is really I like to call the operational layer. So this is where you're tracking desktops, laptops, monitors. Now, if you want to get into keyboards and mice, I struggle with that personally. I don't think it needs to be tracked there. But for those types of assets, that's really at the base of your CMDB. Your infrastructure teams, the desktop support teams, they will use all of that data for a couple things. One, for reporting, and two, to link back to incidents. You want to see how many incident records came in and hit a particular brand and model desktop hardware, so you can do trend analysis. Why do we keep purchasing from this vendor with this model? And so from an asset management perspective in ServiceNow, that's all very possible. And there's I mean, most of IT, let's face it, that's what they're focused on. But when you start moving up that layered cake of the CMDB, people care about, and the IT Service Management Office cares about the blueprint. They care about what business services are in the CMDB, what assets and infrastructure components do those business services relate down to, and they care about overall impact. So if a change request comes in and it's a high risk, you want IT to see not necessarily the asset layer. You want them to see if you touch this particular server with that change request and you take down the server, it has an upstream impact to the business service, and that impacts our customers, our employees, so on and so forth. And so there's really two major audiences focused on the CMDB. It's really the IT folks that are worried about asset management, and then you have the Service Management Office focusing on the blueprints, change, and incident processes.
Very good.
Yep. Good question, though.
Yeah, I think that definitely, you know, clears things up. And I don't want to derail us, you know, from the presentation anymore, but there was actually another question from the audience, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about. And this is actually from Sandy Seegers, name I recognize, so thanks for the question, Sandy. She was wondering if Harvey would be willing to share which classes they support, and are any of those non-discovered classes?
Okay, I give you a few that I can, on top of my head, okay? If you're interested in what Discovery is discovering, only two classes right now to start off. Server class and network gear, okay? Those are the two big classes that we're discovering. It is discovering other elements and items for other classes. We pretty much have those guys in a discoverable state. We're not activating those guys, because until we get our taxonomy defined for the remaining parts of discovery to bring them in and put them in the proper classes. And again, we start from ground zero. For the other class that we already have and use, I can talk to you offline to tell you the other plethora of classes that we're already using.
Yeah, you and Sandy can share war stories for sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Thanks, Harvey. And real quick, can you clarify what CCSN stands for, that acronym?
Oh, sure. Coca-Cola Service Now.
Perfect.
That's the name of our program.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Now, let's proceed. Let's look at the major components. Here, I'm focused on the major components of establishing a CMDB. Okay. I'm going to focus on 7 of these. I'm not going to get involved with the development methodology. Okay, that's something that's an entirely another presentation. But it's crucial the way we did an agile part of it. So I'm going to talk about pretty much just 7 of these. Okay, which is very crucial. And it's going to be very high level. Okay. Let's look at a CI. Okay, again, as I stated, in our environment, the team that assembled to build the CMDB, again, we had zero knowledge of idle processes, zero knowledge of what is a CMDB, ITSM processes. On the CMDB, we had zero knowledge. I want to stress that. So we had to go from ground zero. So again, what is a CI? We start getting to definition of CI. And this is what we come up with, a component that delivers an IT services, hardware, software, documentation. It exists in a record in the CMDB, and to make changes to it under control of change management. Okay? So in simplistic terms, a CI is something that you represent in your infrastructure and application. Those are just CIs. Now, another definition, CI attributes. A piece of information about a configuration item, descriptors, okay, like alias, location, security classification, the groups that are associated with it. These are attributes, the surrounding information of a CI. And so those key definition helped us to establish our CMDB. And again, this is very granular, low-level information, which we're going to build up into the classes, which will come on later on in the presentation. Next, what is a high-level definition of a CMDB, Configuration Management Database? All right, we said just a database, which is nothing but a collection of records, to manage configuration records throughout their life cycle. So therefore, there's a birth to a CI. You create the CI, goes through pinned-in, its approval stage, you put it into production, and then you retire it and sunset it, which they call decommission. Then there are you record the record attributes. Record attributes of each CI. Okay, as I stated on the previous slide there, those are the definitely elements, distinct elements and descriptors for those CIs are recorded on the record. Next, you have relationships with other CIs. You maintain relationships with other CIs. And I will talk about relationships on some slides to come. The CMDB is maintained what we call a configuration management analyst, okay? These people are the gatekeepers of it. They pretty much make sure your data is there. They are pretty much the only one to touch the data in the CMDB. And our CMDB is used by all of the IT service management processes. Let's get into some primary benefits of the CMDB. It is a single and centralized point of reference for detailed attributes around underlying IT infrastructure globally. Okay, I mean, for the globe, for the Coca-Cola company, our CMDB is that central point. This is one centralized point that represents all of the infrastructure underlying IT things in one repository. 2, the relationships. Okay, upstream and downstream. You heard Sean talked about that when he was answering the question about the upstream and downstream components. And then based on the relationships, you can say, therefore, when our change process, if we make a change to a CI, we can tell you all the impacts and the risks that association making that change. ServiceNow is pretty good in helping you do that. And that's when we get involved with the relationships. So these are the 2 primary CMDB benefits. Now, let me give you a picture on how our CMDB is used. Again, our CMDB is the core of our ITSM processes. So you can see like incident management, problem management, change management, release management. Our CMDB is at the core, okay? And here you can see like asset management. That's how we plan to use it here from our business service management, BS and mappings. You know what has been impacted. Our CMDB is at the core, okay? So this is a good picture on how we're using the CMDB at the Coca-Cola Company. All right. So again, we have a poll question here. We'd like to poll the audience, and I'll delegate back to you, Mike.
Thanks, Harvey. So yeah, the next poll we're gonna open up to you guys is I'm gonna launch it right now. The question is, what percentage of assets do you feel confident in knowing their whereabouts? And options are less than 25%, 25 to 50%, 50 to 75%, more than 75%. So we'll give everybody about 20 seconds to answer, and then we'll share the results. After we share the results, Harvey and Sean, actually, there were a couple more questions that came in. So maybe before we move on, we can present those to the audience and get some answers, because I think they're definitely some pretty good questions. So I'll give this about 10 more seconds. It looks like about 75% of folks voted too. So pretty significant results here. So I'm going to close the poll, and we'll share the results. So again, what percentage of assets do you feel confident knowing their whereabouts? 3% said less than 25%. Actually, that's really good. 26% said 25 to 50%. 34% of you said between 50 and 75%. And then 36% said more than 75%. So pretty scattered across the board. So back to you, Harvey, and we can talk a little more about those results too, if you'd like, but I want to get back to these questions from the audience. And one of them was from Joe Clary, and this went back to when to Sean, when you were answering one of the questions. You talked about moving up a tree. It looks like Joe and his organization, they're looking at slow rolling a CMDB, starting at the highest level and then working down. So I guess kind of the opposite of what you mentioned earlier. So he's just curious if that's a good idea or not.
Sure. Yeah, that's an excellent question, and it's something I didn't talk about, so I'm glad he brought that up. Really, when you're talking about the CMDB, there's three approaches. There's the top-down approach, the bottom-up approach, and there's probably a better way of saying it, but I like to call the other one the sandwich approach. So a lot of organizations, they're dealing with different things. Their priorities are very different. And when you're rolling out IT service management, you'll find that a lot of companies, they don't, in a perfect world, you would start with the CMDB and go from there, but that's not always what happens, right? It's what is really important to the business. So to get to the question, you can start at the top with the business service layer, and really that's a recommendation we also have so that you can get your processes started, right? So if you know what the business service is at a bare minimum, when an incident comes in, it's critical, it's impacting your customers, your clients, or your internal customers, you can immediately see what business service is impacted. So, for example, collaboration is down, which includes email and instant messaging and all of that. Or SAP is down, we're not going to invoice or we're not going to ship product. And so for a lot of organizations, getting that level of visibility right out of the gate is important. So I think that is a good way of doing it. Other organizations are answering a different problem. And so they'll start with the bottom. They'll say, the CIO asked us, what assets do we have and where are they? And I cannot answer that question. And that comes up a lot from our customers, and it's not uncommon. And so they start with a bottom-up approach. They turn on discovery, they may integrate with other discovery tools and populate the base of the CMDB, and they start working their way up. And I think that's perfectly fine as well. And then the last one, right, is sandwich. Is the ITSM folks, again, to get to that layered cake type visualization, they say, look, we have to start with business services and start relating those down to other technologies. But we still can't forget about our IT folks that aren't doing asset management well. So a lot of times what I find in those situations is you'll have two streams of work going on. The ITSM program is doing blueprinting and doing business service mapping, and then the asset management teams or infrastructure teams are focused on getting those CIs at the bottom of the CMDB. And at some point in the middle, they start to connect, and that's a healthy discussion that you'll have to have internally. But those are the three approaches.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Harvey, do you agree?
Yeah, I concur with that wholeheartedly, because that's what we're doing at the Coca-Cola Company right now. I think we have like a sandwich approach. We're going from top down with bottom up, but we really can't exhaust that until we get relationships there. Okay,
Right.
and then with discovery, it's populating from a bottom up, and then as we get our learning and get more confident in the discovery, then we're going to keep going up the chain.
Right.
With discovery. Okay, so yes, that's where we're going.
And relationships is not an overnight sort of practice.
No.
I mean, that blueprinting and doing relationships takes time
Yes.
and analysis.
Absolutely.
So great question.
Yeah, great question and great answer. Thanks, guys. And real quick, this actually kind of segues into the next question, which is about relationships. And this question's from Frank Tremmel. So thanks, Frank. And this I guess is to you, Harvey. How were the relationships between CIs approached? Was it by application, by business service, by hardware? Just looking for some more clarification there.
I tell you, I'm trying to make it simple because I'm running out of time for my segment.
Yeah.
It's based on the classes. So when I get into my discussion of classes, I will show you how we did it, okay? So it's based on the classes, all right? And then based on the classes, everything evolves from the classes. So from our class, we have an application class, database class, and a server class, okay? So just think about that, Frank. You get three different boxes, right? One box on the top, business strategy or business services. Another box under it, application. I want you to go to the east of that and write a box called database, and south of all of that is servers, okay? And you draw a line, everything from the business service on top goes to application, and then application goes to database and to server, and database down to server. So when you're doing your relationship with that little simple topography, what I'm just giving you there, that was the basis of our application, because at the Coca-Cola environment, the system we are sunset, applications is our driver. That's key, the driver, okay? Some application, some environment may be the server, some environment may be the network routers and switch, but our environment is the application. And the application executes on a server, and application reads and writes data to a database. And database executes on what? A server, all right? That just gives you that whole picture, depiction, the representation of our relationship. I do have some slides. I'm going to go over that briefly.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's an art, not a science. Yeah. And the only thing I can add to that is really, you know, we always preach at Fruition to have a crawl, walk, run type approach, and you have to just be careful here.
Yes.
And you can start with the basic relationships, and you don't need to relate everything and anything, right? So,
correct.
We'll talk a little bit more.
We'll talk about that because definitely you got to be born, then you crawl, then you walk, then you accelerate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, let's talk about the classes. Any more questions? That's it?
No, go ahead, Harvey.
Okay, thanks. Let's move on. As we proceed, here let's talk about what's the primary makeup of a CMDB. The classes. Okay, collection, a group of members having certain attributes or traits in common, or in other words, a category. The CMDB is represented by classes. All right, now, what do you mean by these classes? You represent and map your IT infrastructure components into classes. Let's go to the next slide. Examples of CMDB CI classes: business services, application, database, system software, server, network devices. Okay? I think I have and a lot of storage. These are some examples here, okay? Pulling out the back. So as you can see, these are just boxes here. If you go get service now and go to the demonstration out of the box, you'll see all these classes on the left, but you probably don't have a good understanding of it, you see? But here, for us, when we start decomposing things in classes, it was easy to segment these CIs, okay? So therefore, like an application class, is decomposed into subtypes as well as server and storage, which I'm going to try to go on the next screen. Okay? Look at this. Class types. Okay? Different items have common characteristics. In the application class, you got web, mobile, client, server. These are the different types of application. Now, you may say, well, all those guys are going to be housed in the application. What segment them differently? That's something called categorization. Okay? In our environment, we have 3 levels of categorization. And in your environment, you may have 2. I think out of the box, ServiceNow give you 2 categorization. So therefore, you can segment and organize your CIs in one class into minute details. And that's where these class types come into play at. It's based on your categorization. Database types, server types, Windows, Linux, AIX, and network types like routers, switches, and firewalls. Okay, these are different types. Those are class types. And again, I review the CIs here. And if you look at it, you must name your CIs properly, some standards where you can uniquely identify your CI in the CMDB, and okay, some contextual sense. So there are some standards we recommend the name for your CIs. And then again, the attributes are descriptors that are associated with the CI that supports the name of the CI and that supports the other processes of your, for that CI has involved with other ITSM processes like change, incident, and problem, and such like. Let's talk about relationships, okay? The way in which 2 or more concepts or objects are connected. From a CMDB perspective, CIs are dependent on other CIs, okay? So, for example, the application for Coca-Cola, we know our application, we need database, and it's all on a server, okay? Has a minimum for a system, okay? And that's what that statement means there. Indicate the nature of the dependency, okay? Again, that's pretty self-explanatory. Enable impact determination risk analysis. So when you do your relationship, so therefore you want to make a change on one CI, there may be impacts. For example, if you bring a server down, I can tell you all the application and databases on that server. Okay, and you want to define this at your requirements phase. Let me look at this picture here. Simple relationship between CMDB CIs. Okay, very simple. On the top here, your business services, all right? Therefore, associated with the application, then look at application, read writes data to a database. They both execute on the server, and they are connected to a network device. This is a general overview picture of the classes, simple class of the CMDB. Okay, we start off with, we're supposed to start off with 5, but as you can see, it's expanded to 10. Now we have to about 17. So therefore, this is a simple picture of the simple relationship of the class. So based on the question that came up, this is pretty much a simple picture on how we do in our relationships.
Yeah, and I'm sure you could talk with others that may disagree, but I would definitely say this is a starting point. You could almost just start with business services, quite frankly, and map back to applications, and then as you mature the CMDB and you roll in more CIs, you could start, building that out from there. The key thing is just you don't have to do all of this to get going.
Right.
And I think sometimes when you overthink this or you over-architect it, you can get yourself in trouble. So you can definitely start small.
Exactly. And also, it takes about 4 to 6 years to really implement a CMDB successfully based on talk with Gardner and other people in the industry. Anyway, how do you load this data here? How much time I have, Sean? I think my time is quickly accelerating on here.
About 10.
Okay. Right here. These are the ways that we load our data up in our CMDB. You can use Discovery, or you can manually load them through Excel spreadsheet, okay? And so therefore, we went to Excel spreadsheet because therefore we had to learn the CMDB, learn the classes, learn the environment, because Discovery is coming back with millions of data that inundated us. So we load them first, populate our classes, got to learn it. Then we started with a small version of Discovery, populating the server class and the network class of starter. And then again, as we learn, get more confidence and expand and build out, Discovery is going to take more of a role in updating the CIs. And again, it takes, as I stated, It takes about 4 to 6 years to really get a CMDB established functioning. Based on my talk full blown, man, talking to people in the industry. Right. So if we come across our 1 year anniversary on February the 6th, yes, I can see why it takes 4 to 6 years. Okay. Again, one of the important components, our partners here, we use ServiceNow as well as Fruition, because I know Sean came and helped us out, talked to us about the groups. About four weeks before go live, Sean introduced the groups to us, man. It was foreign, but very crucial about the groups. You must have groups. I understand the groups is one of those lifebloods in ServiceNow. If you do the groups correctly, which I'm glad we took heed to Sean's advice, recommendation, we have them set up properly to support all our processes. Very important. Those are the major components here. As I went over CI, the attributes of CI, CMDB, the classes, relationship, the data sources, and the SME partner. Again, I'm talking to those coming in from ground zero, establishing the CMDB. As I come to a conclusion here, some of my successful nuggets for establishing a successful CMDB, again, understanding the major components. I recommend start small to get your confidence up, not 5 classes. You manually populate your classes. Okay, starting small, manually populating them, and you do not immediately have to establish your relationships going out of the gate. Okay, grow and evolve into it. That's one of our recommendations. And some of the lessons learned, as I look in hindsight now, after almost a year, so we had to do the development over with the little knowledge that we have now. Okay, right now I think we will define more CI attributes than associated with it. Okay. And you might say, why would we do that? Well, it's to auto-populate the data entry form on the other processes like incident, change. So when you select a CI, those entries automatically populate. So the user, all they have to do is sit back and say, oh, point, click, you want to get point, click, and they're done. Submit the change request.
So you're saying more automation, whereas
yes.
if you have some of those attributes on the CI form,
right.
when an incident hits it
yes.
or is related to it,
yes.
you can have fields on the incident automatically.
Point in case, my friend. Point in case. Let's talk about incident. Let's say the first group can't resolve it, right? Do they have an escalation group? How about another escalation group, all right? Can you have like 3 levels of escalation group associated with that CI in the group? So therefore, in an incident, everything is there. So when the help desk gets that CI, right, everything, they can answer all of their questions right there.
Gotcha.
Okay? So again, that's just a lesson learned from talking to all the different people. If we have to do it over again, that's something I'll bring to the table. Number 2, the data validation process. Instead of doing it pretty much in the mid to the end cycle right before go live, I would pretty much got involved early. Okay, keep people involved. Saying, okay, we need your CI, vetting that information early. Just get more cycles. I wish we had more iteration cycles.
Right. So before you populate the CMDB, probably pad the project a little bit more with time to just spend drilling data,
yes.
saying, look at the server assets.
Yes.
Are all the attributes there?
Right.
Is the information correct or not
right.
before it even gets uploaded?
Because we had like one shot to do it. The time was running out. You know, we had to deploy. You know, everybody was excited about it. Failure's not an option. I mean, you know, we didn't push out no huge airplane, you know, that flew over the Pacific for a few seconds and land. You know, no, we didn't do that. Okay? We're still flying people. We did it correctly. But looking at it, we can just vet the data just a little bit more.
A couple more weeks of time, just
that's
like
it.
every
just
time.
Just data. Exactly. I think that's the story for all projects. And lastly here, which, as I stated earlier, created more groups on CI for other service management processes. I think that's some of the lessons learned there. And I thank you for my presentation.
Yeah. Harvey, thanks for going through this. So if there's any CMDB questions that are burning questions that we want to get asked now, we can take those questions. Want to thank you again for kind of going through your experience at Coca-Cola and rolling out the CMDB. You know, hope that is beneficial to others who are looking at what work they might be doing this year. So any questions before we transition to Judy?
Yeah, we actually have a bunch. Some pretty awesome questions too. So first of all, before I start asking, I just want to find out how many questions we have time for. Sean, do you have an idea?
Yeah, I think we have about 8 minutes or so, and then that gives Judy about 45 minutes.
Okay, good. So yeah, thanks again to Harvey. Awesome stuff. Hopefully everybody was able to make a connection and relate. to what he was talking about. We're going to try to get to a majority of the questions now. If we don't get to it, just know that, we will answer it somehow. If we don't get to it during the webinar, we'll send you a follow-up email with an answer. So again, thanks for everybody's participation. So I'm just going to take these in order, Sean, as they came in, and Harvey. So we had a question from Scott Zip probably about 10 minutes ago, and the question is, we are looking to utilize the CMDB to map our critical components for services we share. Is there an easy way to target discovery?
Target discovery for critical components?
Yeah, for the services that they share.
Yeah, I think in terms of ServiceNow, you can definitely, there's configuration options to point it to discover key areas. So if there's a particular subnet or segment of the data center, discovery is going to go out and get that information, and it can help you do some discovery in terms of relationships between services. Yeah. Does it do it all for you, and the BSM map pops open perfectly? No. But it will certainly get you a good way there.
Yes.
Or at least enable you to say, oh, I didn't realize this application's running on this server, or there's this critical component. We didn't even know it was here. What do we do about it now? It gives you at least that basic data to start having this conversation.
Because think about the discovery is like a probe. It just probes, man. It just scans. It gets everything. Like you go on the beach, you got your metal detector looking for something. You get some everything. So here, the discovery goes back and brings everything. Now, if you want to delineate and decipher through all of that, you can have those scripts programmed, program those probes, but now you're in another layer of customization, which you're going into the extreme. Right. So therefore, to drill down there. So let's say, for example, you're in your data center, you got a highly restricted or highly critical VLAN that you want to scan on it. If you know that, yes, you can have the developer like, okay, I know this VLAN is critical, so you may want to program those probes to come back with certain things. So you have some level of customization there.
Yep.
Great. Thanks. On to the
certainly, if we didn't answer some of these questions, or if there's follow-up questions, you'll have our information. You can shoot us an email. We'll certainly do our best to get back to you.
Absolutely, Sean. I'm just going to say that too. Next question is from Iris Culpepper. Thanks, Iris. Question is, did you run into any confusion over what should be in the business service versus application?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. We sure did. And I tell you how we made that distinction very easily. In the business services class, we call it the money class, which is controlled by global IT finance. Very easy. So when I talk to people about our diagram, IT people, we start from application down. The business service is the money class, because what we want to do is track changes, incident, problem, put a financial metric on it. That's where that business services class come into play at for Coca-Cola. That's how we were able to delineate in all our discussion.
Yeah, and a lot of organizations, it really, you want to focus on the business class is a category. It's a framework. It's really encapsulating everything that you're providing out. So I always encourage customers to really focus on what is it that you're providing to your business units, like collaboration, which, instant messaging, SharePoint types, document sharing or email. Right. Those exist there. Or if, shipment is your key function and you're providing products and services and you're shipping them out the door, well, then maybe SAP is or your shipment function is really a business service. So you really have to step back. It's something that takes a little time. You need to get the right people in a room to really focus on what is it that we do, and that's the category, and then everything underneath it supports that business service.
And at Coca-Cola, our global IT finance, when we have the big SAT, all the tracking, what have you, they already have the business service already defined. Already defined. Every application already mapped. They already had that work. So when the CMDB project came up, we just engaged our global IT finance team. They said, these are the services. And we had 131 services starting out the gate, and so now they have re-engineered and got it down to 88. So that was global IT finance. Everything you just talked about, Sean, that team did it. So the CMDB team, we just took their results.
I like the money class. I'm going to use that moving
forward. Oh, man, yeah, that's how I got through IT.
And what do you guys mean
Next
by
question,
that?
Mike.
When you say money class, is that just kind of meaning like the important component, or what?
Yeah, it's really if that item goes down, if that business service fails, you're going to have a reputational or a financial impact to the organization. If one of those business services goes down, part of your business has shut down, or quite frankly, it's been impacted. I guess it doesn't necessarily mean it represents an outage. You can have a feature of an application go down, so it's not a hard outage, but you have a service restoration activity that you need to address.
Exactly.
Your customers are now impacted, or your entire employee base is impacted.
Awesome. Okay, thanks. And I'm just going to ask one more question, and then, because we got some cool stuff with service asset management, and I know Judy's been waiting patiently, so thanks, Judy. One more question, and this is from Troy Jensen. Have you built anything regarding interfaces into ServiceNow? In other words, how information is exchanged between applications?
Okay. Are we talking about in ServiceNow, how we take the ServiceNow data and go to third-party data outside of the ServiceNow?
You know, I would assume that's the case, Harvey.
Okay, fine. Yes. Answer your question, yes. Yes. And I tell you what we've done on the ServiceNow, like ODC connection, some people want to get to some of the data there. So I know ServiceNow has a out-of-the-box ODBC connectivity for a Windows Server environment that we're using to extrapolate data to populate another system. Is NetCool a ServiceNow tool?
It's not. You've integrated with it.
Yes, like NetCool is a third-party app, okay, that we integrated with it, okay? And also, in our environment, we get ready to create like RevTrack, other third-party to bring them on board.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd add on, Mike, is that, obviously ServiceNow, one of the key benefits of using it, as most of the customers on the phone probably have experienced, is the fact that you can do the web services integration, SOAP calls, and then worst case scenario, you can do a basic email integration. So a lot of customers do take the data that I've personally seen, and they're either importing that data through integrations with other systems like event management tools, different discovery tools that attach more information to CIs, or quite frankly, shipping that data out for various purposes, be it business reporting, or be it to feed other regulatory type systems that need asset related data. So,
yeah,
great, thanks. Well, I think that's it for the Q&A, because I know we definitely have to move on to the next segment. But just so you know, Harvey and Sean, we actually have probably about 10 more questions from the audience that need to be answered yet. So definitely, it's awesome that everybody's kind of interested and engaged in CMDB. So, as Sean mentioned earlier, we will definitely follow up with all of you. We've collected all the questions, so we will follow up with you, if not end of this week, by early next week. So thanks again, guys, for understanding.
All right, so we're going to move into the next segment of the virtual user group. Again, I introduced Judy, but just to give another quick overview. So Judy has been at Northern Trust for many years and has served in infrastructure manager roles, managing the server team, managing server assets. So very familiar with all of the fun around asset management. She's going to talk specifically about how Northern Trust decided about 18 months or so ago to focus on software asset management, and why it's a little bit differently than just focusing on the CMDB, and what's the importance of focusing on the asset titles. And so with no further delay, I want to introduce Judy. Judy, you there?
I am.
All right.
Thanks.
So I'll go ahead and hand it over to you if you want to get started, and I'll help you out as we go along.
Okay. Can everybody see the screen?
I can see if you want to maximize the presentation, we can probably see the full thing.
Yep. Sorry. Hold on. I think that's about the best I can do.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So as Sean said, I'm here to talk to you about software asset management and how we do that at the Northern. Some of the items I'm going to cover is our ITSM background, processes and ServiceNow snapshot, the SAM mission and objectives, benefits, lifecycle processes, process integrations, and reporting. And Sean, I think you're going to give the background since you actually know more of it than I do.
Okay. Oh, that's fun. Okay, so as I mentioned, I was at Northern for about 12 years. So just to quickly kind of set up what the ITSM landscape is at Northern, early 2000, like many organizations, Northern Trust had an initial incident management and change approval process in place using the legacy Remedy platform. I won't even scare everybody with the versions because it was a while ago. But the processes were managed at a basic level on that platform. One key thing I wanted to highlight was knowledge management and knowledge, IT knowledge, was in various systems, Lotus Notes databases, spreadsheets, websites, you name it, knowledge was scattered across IT. In 2006, as you can see here, that's really when the Service Management Office was established, which was really a big win for IT, I think, and for Northern as a whole. To set that focus, to say, look, we want to manage these processes appropriately. We want to mature them. We want to ensure they're being used globally. Having the SMO set up, having process owners identified, and maturing those processes really helped get the program moving. Kind of moving down a little bit to the 2010 area, it was decided that, okay, now that we've had these initial processes in place from an ITSM perspective, let's go ahead and move those over to, at the time, it was the latest and greatest version of Remedy. To our surprise, end users weren't, as happy with that platform. And so kind of in moving into 2010, we made the decision that, look, we need to move a little bit faster than we've been moving over the last couple of years. We not only want to get these processes matured to an ITIL V3 or V2, V3 standard, but the current tool set really isn't helping. It's taking way too long to do this. So ServiceNow was implemented in about 5 months for 2,500 IT users and about 15,000 non-IT users globally. And at that time, self-service, and it's in a basic sense, was deployed. So this is where IT service management, IT was giving a face of IT through the self-service portal. And then, Judy, if you want to talk about the next two.
Sure. Okay, so today our service management office is fully staffed. We have process owners for all of our processes. We're all responsible for managing new requirements, setting prioritization, defects and enhancements, and we have our CABs and ITSM advisory boards in place. And then beginning this year and on, we will be deploying license management, as CSI will continue in advanced reporting. So as you can see here, very similar to what Harvey showed you, here are our ITSM processes and our ServiceNow snapshot.
Hey, Judy.
As you can see, yes.
Hey, it's Mike real quick. I just wanted to jump in. We actually had a poll back on that last screen, and I know folks love the poll, so I'm going to go ahead and
There we go. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm going to go ahead and launch that. So this is our first software asset management related poll, and the question is, do you have an established structure for your service management office? Examples are identified process owners, a managed system or way of dealing with defects. Sean, I don't know if you have any other examples to add to that.
Yeah, really, it's just, do you have a service management office? Is it called that? Do you have a director of the office, process owners, folks that are maintaining the processes, the documents, the RACI matrices, the, defects and enhancements, just get an idea of maturity level.
Great. Okay. Yep. We got a bunch of folks voting right now, so we'll give it about 10 more seconds. Sorry to cut you off, Judy, by the way.
Oh, not a problem.
And we'll go ahead and close. It looks like we had about 70% of you vote, so thank you. And then we'll share the results. So again, the question, do you have an established structure for your service management office? 33% said yes, 12% said no, 51% said work in progress, and 4% said don't know. So thanks again for voting. And back to you, Judy.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So as you can see from this slide, we are mature in our processes. License management is in yellow. It is in process. And I'm going to talk quite a bit about that today. Okay. So back about the end of 2010, beginning of 2011, we had an outside firm come in and perform an assessment on how well we manage our software assets. We do some things really well, and some things we didn't do all that well. And from that, we created our program mission and our objectives. And this is what I'm going to walk you through, and I'll be pointing out the different things that came about from this assessment, and it's helped us to get to where we are today. So the program mission for the software asset management process is to design, implement, maintain the processes and resources needed to effectively manage, control, protect your software assets throughout all lifecycle stages within the Northern Trust. Provide the proper governance around software assets, facilitate the processes designed around the software lifecycle, and implement and support the tools and resources needed to enable those activities. What I have just read to you is my job description. This is what I do every day. The program objectives provide a standardized set of practices, tools, and metrics for software to be managed across the Northern Trust organization. Establish clear lines of ownership and responsibility for software within the organization. Now, this can be a challenge. I've talked to other folks where this has been an issue. We have struggled with it upon occasion. There can only be one owner of a software asset. So we have a rule of thumb when it comes to people who want to share software. If you bring it into the bank, you are the owner. And I'll get into this in more detail as I go through the presentation, but as we've been migrating our repositories and I have the legacy software, no one can remember who actually brought it into the company, then the rule of thumb is whoever has the most licenses is now the software owner. Another objective is to reduce expenses through better understanding of our software usage, distribution, and costs. And this includes licenses, maintenance, development, and support. So the benefits of a software asset management program: centralized software repository, software license management, software certification tracking, to facilitate periodic audits as they're needed, enable strategic software decisions, and improve end-user experience. And I know Mike has a poll question here.
I do, yep. That queues up on this poll, which is perfect for this slide. The next poll question is, do you have a software asset management system in place? So pretty simple. Possible answers are yes, no, work in progress, and don't know. So we'll give everybody a few seconds to vote. It looks like they're still coming in, so we'll give it a few more seconds here. All right. So we had about 70% again vote. Thank you. And we'll go ahead and close and share the results. So, do you have a software asset management system in place? 28% said yes, 28% said no, 42% said work in progress, and 2% said don't know. And what we can do too, we'll do some follow-ups. Obviously, there's some questions we still need to answer. What we can do too is share the results from all these polls as well, just so you can refer to it and get a sense of, again, kind of where you stack up against your fellow ITSM friends and colleagues. So, Thanks,
And
Judy.
Judy, just really quick on this slide, can you talk a little bit about the certification process at a very high level and just how important that is for ensuring desktop applications are rolled out properly, and really how the software asset process is helping you guys with the regulatory and risk items that you have to address on an annual basis?
That comes in a couple slides.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So what I want to do now, then, is these next couple slides, and this will, I'll comment on what Sean wanted me to speak to. I'm going to focus on the centralized software repository and software license management benefits, because I do believe with these two, you actually will realize the remaining benefits. So the centralized software repository, consolidate your existing repositories. We had 3. Our server-based applications were sitting on a SharePoint site. Our infrastructure software were sitting in 3 different repositories, and our desktop software titles are still in Remedy, which we will be migrating next month. These are also our software classes. So I have application, infrastructure, and desktop, and we do that because the attributes are slightly different for each one. And I mentioned this in our mission statement, my job is to effectively manage, control, and protect the software assets throughout their life cycle. I cannot do that in a decentralized model. You really need to ensure that all of your repositories have been consolidated into one. And the lesson learned here, this will not take place overnight. I've been on the team, it'll be 2 years this April. We just migrated a year ago our SharePoint site. This past fall, we migrated our infrastructure titles. And as I said previously, we won't be migrating our desktop assets until next month. The reason for this is you may need to also replace the processes, not just migrate the data. In Remedy, we use the CTR process for certification and deployment of our desktop software. We took the opportunity to replace that process, and we're going to be using service requests to do that. By using service requests, we will also be integrating 2 processes, SAM and service request. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to show you what the software title looks like within ServiceNow, and I'll explain a little bit in more detail how the integration is going to work.
Hey, Judy.
Yes.
Hey, so, and Sean, feel free to chime in too. I figured this would be a good point to ask maybe just a couple questions from the audience. The first question is from Frank Tremmel. Thanks, Frank. Question is, are you using the asset management module that comes with the Berlin release of ServiceNow?
We will be. We're not on Berlin yet. We are testing right now, and I believe the date we have is March, where we will be moving to Berlin.
Great. Thanks. And
just one. Coca-Cola Company, we are in discussion right now and testing Berlin. And for us going asset, it will be in Berlin.
Cool. Thanks, Harvey. And just one more. I know you had some good momentum going there, Judy. So
that's okay.
It's from Kerry Johnson. What are you doing with contract document retention? Do you have a way to tie those to the records? Does that question make sense?
Yes, it does. And actually, the screen I'm on right now, the slide I'm on, that's what I'm going to talk about.
Perfect. All yours, Judy. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, license management will be implemented later this year. We chose last summer not to implement the license management module that ServiceNow was offering at that time. We have chosen to wait for the Berlin upgrade so that we can take advantage of ITAM. So that project will be kicking off early spring, and we should have license management in place by the end of this year. I look at license management as two components: license counts, and we're using the ServiceNow Discovery to do that. It's going to tell you this software lives on this piece of hardware. What it will not tell you is what you are entitled to. Now, just because we don't have an automated license management compliance tracker in place doesn't mean you can't start license management right now. What you need to know are your entitlements. Every software title has a software owner, and the software owners, we are a decentralized model from a license management standpoint. Each software owner, not only are they responsible for their software title, they are responsible for their licenses. What each software owner needs to do before they will be onboarded into license management is to understand their entitlements. They need to pull their contracts, their agreements. They need to understand who can use their software, where can it be used, what type of test or DR rights do they have virtualization rights. Not only do they need to know that, they need to compare that information to their accounts payable information, their invoices, and their purchase orders. You need to ensure that what is in your contract is what you paid for. And then through Discovery, we're also confirming that that is what you actually got. One of the other things that we're asking people to do, and I work very closely with procurement, so with new contracts going forward, talk to your vendors or confirm with your vendor, how do I count my licenses? Is it, a user? Is it concurrent? Is it by CPU or processor? All of this information, all of your entitlement information can be gathered right now so that when you're ready to implement license management, you already know what you're discovering. You can tie that to what you're entitled to, and then you will know your license position. Another thing you need to note here, and Harvey talked about this with the CMDB, your data must be good. Validate that what you are discovering is accurate data. As I put here, bad data is bad license management. And does that answer the question that was asked about tying to contracts?
I think so, Judy. That was definitely a good summary. I'll wait to see if we get a follow-up from Carrie, but I think you're okay to move on. So thanks for getting into detail with that.
Well, and I'll just comment on one other thing, just in case I didn't fully answer the question. With license management, we will have a license form where we'll have the information, what's discovered, what do we believe we're entitled to, how do we count it, and attached to that license form will be a simple contract form. We are not the record keepers of contracts. That's in our contract system. However, we are working with the development team of our contract system to have an automated feed of as much information as we can. We're not going to take all of the detail, but we will integrate at a high level so that we have the contract number, begin date, end date, and different terms of the contract. And hopefully that answered Carrie's question. And I think it's another poll.
We do, yeah, and this is actually going to be our last one for the day. So our last poll question is, are you considering ServiceNow to manage software licenses? Available answers are yes, no, already use ServiceNow for SLM or software license management, and then the final is don't know. So give everybody a chance to answer. All right, and looks like we'll go ahead and close. So we had over 70% vote, so good stuff. Thank you. So are you considering ServiceNow to manage software licenses? 70% said yes. 6% no. 21% already use ServiceNow for SLM, and then 4% said don't know. So thanks again for to everybody for participating in the polls today. And we'll throw it back to you, Judy.
Thank you. Okay, what this slide is showing you is the SAM lifecycle processes. And what you will see is the SAM governance is part of all of the lifecycle processes from requisition through retirement. This next slide just gives you a little bit more detail on the SAM program's involvement in other processes throughout our organization. We've integrated with existing processes. So for example, IPLC and SDLC during requisition. I worked with the process owner for those processes to insert SAM into the methodology to ensure software records are created in the ServiceNow repository. The objective of the integration here is not that I don't own these processes. I work with the process owners to ensure that SAM is integrated at each phase of the life cycle. Again, it goes back to the mission statement. My responsibility is to effectively manage, control, and protect the software assets. And the only way I can do that is to be a part of each step of the life cycle. And minimally, it's typically done twice a year, but minimally all of the integration points are reviewed annually. Reporting.
Judy, this is Sean. I just wanted to highlight, in terms of the software asset management process, I think what you guys are doing really well, and something I don't see all the time, is really the process takes that holistic approach. And it's looking at everything about the software lifecycle. It's not just about populating the CMDB with the application CIs and putting attributes on it and relating it to various ITSM records, which is key, and yet that's recommended, right? You took a step back, and Northern took a step back to say, let's start from the very beginning. Let's look at what titles are out there so we don't purchase 10 of the same type of tool. If you already have a screen capture software, and there's an application owner for it, there's no reason to buy 5 other types of screen capture software. So you guys started from the very beginning and said, how do we acquire and purchase software, procure software, and then onboarding it and taking it from that point all the way through the end. And really that process is helping manage all of the software titles. And then from IT service management's perspective, from the service management office, you're able to now use those application CIs for ITSM. But it's really a much bigger process. It's really end-to-end management of the software titles.
Correct. And thank you for throwing that in.
Yep.
Okay, SAM reporting. What you have here is a picture of my dashboard from the test system. And as you can see, it's very simplistic. The dashboard where I have software packages not in service greater than 60 days and software packages by all operational statuses. Software owners and their support teams have the same dashboard, but it's just specific to their items, and I monitor the entire program. The other key thing that I monitor here is inactive software owners. A software owner must be a manager level 1 or above. If someone leaves that position or role, I am notified on a weekly basis. I truly do not have 13 inactive software owners. This is test. And then I reach out to the next level manager to ensure that I always have an active software owner, and this will become extremely critical when we roll out license management. One other comment I wanted to make here is that in the 12 months that SAM has actually been live, since we converted or migrated our first repository, I have only had one request for a global report. This dashboard works for the software owners. They can export all of their data. They can export all data if they need to, and provide any type of management reports that they need. So we have not had to customize. Future reporting. These are some of the reports we've been kicking around for license management, software consumption versus license entitlement, usage versus what's been purchased, cost of software per user, and unmanaged software titles. This will be fine-tuned as we work through the license management project, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what we have been thinking about. And what I wanted to show you here is our software package. This is what I monitor. This is what the software owners and their support groups use as needed. So I'm not going to go through every field here, but I wanted to point out a couple things. This top field, Northern Trust internal name. We needed a way for software owners to identify the title based off what the business partners know it by, not necessarily the name of the product we bought. So that's why we have two name fields. Northern Trust internal name, what do we call it? Manufacturer product name, what is it we actually purchased? Typically that's the name that's in the contract. The other thing that we're doing that we did not do well, and this came out of that assessment we had done, we don't have a catalog of all of our software. In Remedy for desktop, we did okay, but for the rest of the software we have, if a partner wanted to know if we had such and such software here in the bank, they did not have a good way to do that. So this is with this form, I am building that catalog by having the manufacturer's name and the manufacturer's software description. This description is typically copied and pasted from the vendor's website. If you go to purchase software for home use, you might do a Google. I want the same type of information here where I'm pulling back exactly what the manufacturer and how they describe it. The general software description is how we use it here at the bank, and this helps other developers or application teams in the bank if they want to know, one, do we have a certain product? And they may search off the manufacturer product name or the manufacturer software description. But if they're trying to find something in the bank that people are using and how it's being used for a specific business unit or business area, this is the area that they would search. One other thing that I wanted to highlight here is the DR information that you see on the right-hand side of your screen. This is something that management has deemed important to have at the core of the software package, especially as it would relate to incident management. I'm working on a project currently where I will exchange information with our DR tool. So a lot of this information here will eventually become auto-populated. You'll see some of these tabs here at the bottom, the business unit, technologies, and life cycle. All of this information is the core to the software package that I need to do my job to protect our assets and to do license management. We have other information, I didn't show it, but we do have other business type information. Once people see your repository and they understand the reports and the metrics they can get out of it, everybody's going to want your data, and then they're going to want their data attached to it, more attributes, and that's fine as long as it doesn't touch the core. The core needs to remain intact so that you can do your job as the process owner for the SAM program. And that's all I had.
So we actually, Judy, we actually do have a question for you from the audience, from Chad. And I think earlier you mentioned or used the term level 1 personnel.
Yes.
could you provide context around who a level 1 person would be?
Level 1 manager would be, we refer to them as team leaders. Supervisors, it's typically your lower entry manager. So, you know, there is one other thing, and the reason we do that, and Sean wanted to make sure I talked about this, and it was one of the comments that he made. So here at the bank, we say that a manager must be responsible for their software titles, and that they must sign off and attest to on an annual basis that they have reviewed and that all of the attributes associated to that software title are accurate. And we did, last year, at the end of last year, roll out the data verification module within ServiceNow. And I used it for the first time in November, and it works wonderful. I sent a task through ServiceNow to all of the software owners. I was able to specifically target the owner. I told them, you know, in a nice form that what they had to review and verify. Oh, and I was just corrected. It's called the data certification module. So I had everybody perform this. It took about 4 weeks as the time frame I set for everybody to go in and say that yes, they have verified or failed their software title. And it's a great tool to use. Other processes can use in it, and it is something that I will continue to use to do our annual verification process.
Yeah, and Judy, thanks for bringing that up. I almost forgot about that myself. It's really, you know, for all the ServiceNow folks on the phone or on the webcast, you know, it's really an unknown secret in ServiceNow, that data certification app, and it can be used in many, you know, in various different ways. In this case, like Judy mentioned, you basically can configure the system to say on a certain interval, right? So every quarter, every 6 months, annually,
yes,
I want you to run a scan of the software CIs, and if the following fields have not been updated in a certain time frame, flag that record as, you know, there's an issue, or as Judy alluded to, that I personally have verified. I'm attesting that I have looked at this record. It is accurate. You know, we're good to go for the next quarter, next 6 months. And you can use that against change records and other records in ServiceNow, so definitely check that out.
It is a great tool. If I can just add one more thing to that. It's a great tool if you go and add some new fields to your form and they are now required. And instead of waiting till the end of the year to have that information updated, you can go ahead and send out that verification task. So when we do the migration from Remedy into SAM, and I take those desktop records and bring those over, I have some fields in SAM that were never in Remedy. So within a week or so of that migration, I will actually send a verification task out to the software owners who have a class of desktop and ask them to go in and update their records. It's a great tool to use.
All right. Well, I want to thank Judy. I want to thank you, Harvey. I want to thank you as well for taking time out of your busy schedules to present at our first Service Asset and Configuration Management Virtual User Group. Again, this is really meant for everyone that's on the phone and on the webcast to get information out there, to share, to brainstorm. I know virtually it makes it a little bit interesting. It's not like being in an in-person user group, but a lot of folks can't attend those. They can't get away from work or really, you know, have a hard time traveling. So our contact information is on the screen. You've seen this a few times. If you want to jot down our email addresses, or if you just want to shoot me an email, feel free to do that, and I can also coordinate or get questions answered from Judy and from Harvey. You know, just to kind of wrap things up, we will have the recording available for everybody. If you want to listen back or you want to hear a couple key points, it'll be made available to the group. Since this is our first one, please take the survey, give us your honest feedback. We can only improve from here. And if you're interested in presenting what you've done within your organization, or you know, you have topics that maybe we didn't include this time around, but you'd like to see in the next one. Your feedback helps me and helps us all to plan what the next virtual user group will look like. So thanks again, everybody. I guess to be mindful of people's time, we can answer a few more questions, but I did want to cover that in case folks have to run to meetings or drop off. You can stay or you can definitely head out. But thank you everybody for joining us today.
Yep, and just to reiterate what Sean said, and you know, thanks to Harvey and Judy for participating today. Definitely some good insight into software asset management and CMDB. As Sean said, next steps are we'll send you guys an email with a poll, and we're also gonna you know, we're recording the webinar as well, so we're going to share the recording with you as well, along with a PDF. So if there's anything you missed or want to look over again, you'll have the opportunity to do that. I would expect an email sometime early next week. And the other thing I wanted to mention too was that, you know, we still have a couple outstanding questions to answer from earlier with the CMDB portion. So we will definitely follow up with you folks and get those questions answered. And just so you know as well what the schedule is going to be with the SACM or Service Asset and Configuration Management Virtual User Group, we're going to do these on a quarterly basis. So I would expect the next Virtual User Group specific to Service Asset and Configuration Management to be sometime in April. So be on the lookout for some more information on that. And yeah, thanks again for everybody, you know, joining us today and participating.
Yeah, and the only last thing I'd ask is, you know, please share this information. You know, like Mike said, this quarter we focused on software asset, service asset and software assets, but the upcoming ones may help other areas of your business. So please share this, and if you're interested in presenting, please let us know. We definitely want to make this a customer-focused group and to get, you know, share information about what everybody's doing.
Yep. So it looks like no more questions are coming in, so I think we're able to give everybody 20 minutes back in their day. So
thanks, everybody. Hey, have a great afternoon, and thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.